Welcome to Sales for Nice People, the daily podcast where ethical entrepreneurs learn how to sell more because of their values and not despite them. This is episode 7, and today we're kicking off a little mini series on ethical selling. I'm going to show you the 4 fundamental pillars of Sales for Nice People, the framework that I developed, which I developed to help ethical entrepreneurs and people with high integrity to sell more without having to be pushy or sleazy about it. Now, there's 4 pillars in the system. There's listening, there's explain, there's ask, and there's profit. You need to deploy and apply these 4 different modalities of conversation in order for you to create sales that get you paid what you're worth and that get you a decent conversion rate. Now, each of these 4 pillars comes with 5 parameters. You can see that in the screen share here. Listening is really fundamental to all ethical selling. What happens in most cases when you're looking at traditional selling, it's a lot about talking, about trying to persuade people, about trying to pitch them, give them the most convincing and compelling argument so that you'll bowl your buyer over and they'll give you money. No, we don't do that. We ask questions, we listen to people, we try to learn what it's like to be them, and we try to figure out what would be the reasons they should buy or should not buy. Because in the end, it's not your business whether they buy or not, it only becomes your business when they do. And up until that point, your job is to facilitate their process of developing clarity, the clarity and the vision that they need in order to make a decision, be that yes or no. Now, what are those 5 parameters? When you are in the listen mode and throughout your entire sales process, your goal is to obtain permission. You cannot sell something to people without their permission. You cannot have a sales conversation, you cannot make an argument, you cannot ask for the sale without permission. I mean, you can, but then you very quickly fall into the trap of coercion. And even if you don't, when you try and persuade people without their permission, you trigger psychological reactance. For instance, if you are talking to a buyer and they say, it sounds great and we would like to learn more, and you directly go into pitch mode and you go, that's great stuff. I'm going to send you the proposal and the invoice and then we can get started. Well, if you didn't get permission to send that, the most likely outcome is that they're going to go, yeah, sure, send it. And when they receive it, they're going to ignore it. So instead, for example, at that point, you would ask them, hey, is it okay if I send you a proposal? Well, if they then say yes, you now have permission. And they're going to be much more receptive to receiving that. The second parameter of listening is to be the explorer, right? Don't try and figure out how to persuade your buyer. Instead, make it your mission to learn people, to figure out what life is like for them. Figure out what they're up against, what their concerns are, and try to get as much of a picture of the world of your buyer, because that is going to give you all the information that you need in order to have the conversation and the messaging that makes people go, yes, tell me more, how does it work, when do we start? For that, you use the driver of curiosity. So your job is to gain permission and explore their world, and you let curiosity guide you. And this makes for really, really powerful, helpful conversations, which people are going to find very helpful. Because when you help a buyer get clarity on the problem and the cost of keeping the problem and the potential reasons to solve it or not solve it, that is going to make that buyer feel like they're seen. It's going to make them feel that you're being helpful. And it's going to guarantee that when you contact them again, when you do follow up, they're going to be open and receptive. Because when you make people feel seen and respected, they walk away from the interaction going, yeah, I feel respected by you. I'll talk to you again, which is not something that you achieve when you try and pitch and try and persuade. The one thing to watch out for is to make assumptions. We all have confirmation bias. We want to see the things that we want to see in the world. When somebody says something or does something, we interpret it as, well, it must mean, for instance, when a buyer says, it sounds good, we would like to move forward. It's very easy to assume that that means they're going to buy, they're going to send the money, they're going to send the contract. But in their world, you don't know what moving forward means. Maybe that means going off and talking to their stakeholders in the company and making sure that everybody is on board with the program. Well, if you then make the assumption that we want to move forward means send me the document we want to sign, that buyer is going to feel like you missed the mark, like you're not getting them, and they're going to lean back. So always be very careful not to assume that what you hear is actually what they meant for you to hear. And that is why the fifth parameter is to ask and verify. Hey, let me get this straight. Did you mean to say you want to move forward and making this program real and developing it, implementing it? Or did you mean to say that you want to go and talk to your stakeholders? Just so that I'm clear about this. Now you're asking your buyer to verify that you got your interpretation right. And if you didn't, they'll correct you and then you'll know where you stand. So this, in very short form, is what listening is about in the context of Sales for Nice People. Tomorrow, we're going to look at pillar 2, how to explain and get people bought in without having to hype. And meanwhile, if you would like to sign up for a daily email, go to martinsteller.com/nice-people. And if you want to get the full 10-week training, then go to martinsteller.com/SFNP. And there's a page with all the information. There's a checkout button, and you can sign up for the course there. It's 10 weeks. You get a one-on-one session with me every week, where for 20 minutes I teach you one of the chapters of Sales for Nice People. And the second 20 minutes of the session is for me to coach you on the deals that you have in your pipeline. So you're not just going to be learning during the training, you're also going to get help and support moving your actual deals forward and closing them at rates that are worth, at rates that your work is worth, because most everybody charges too little. Now, if you want to get more sales, have an easier time do it, then by all means go check out martinsteller.com/SFNP and let me know if you have any questions. And I hope to see you tomorrow.